Good, great morning to ya, Ishigal Key. Just an opportunity to talk about dealing with unnecessarily difficult people in the season of holidays. This is going to be a webinar I will be doing on the 18th of December, where I'm going to be giving you tactics to deal with unnecessarily difficult people, because you and I know that these people are no joke. And often the holidays are when we are exposed to unnecessarily difficult people. Now, that just doesn't mean it's your partner. It can be family, it can be friends, it can be office politics at this time of the year. So how do you best learn to protect yourself when dealing with unnecessarily difficult people? If you've got any questions about this, feel free to ask, because it's an area of contention. It can be anxiety provoking. For example, if you're thinking about work dynamics, do you go to the Christmas party? Do you just show your face? But having to learn to cope and best protect yourself. You see, empaths, we need to be really mindful of our red flag behaviors. And if we're not victims here. Yes, we have to deal with difficult people, but it's also about learning how best to protect ourselves. We need self-protection strategy. And feel free to ask your questions to me now, because I'm here to be of assistance, and I love a question. I love it when you engage with me, because I feed off of people. I was giving a talk recently at the Body, Mind, Spirit Festival. I actually might post it here. And what is essential is that I get that engagement. Easy, Megs, how you doing, my girl? Love ya, love ya, love ya, love ya. So what do you have to contend with? Is it doing family meals? Is it a difficult partner? You may not know this, but divorces spike after Christmas. January becomes a place where people get to the point where they decide, I can't be doing this anymore. I am done trying to fix that. So whilst there's the whole new year, new me scenario going on, the other aspect is that in this new year, new me scenario, what also happens is people choose to end relationships. So we know, and as therapists, we know that there's often a spike at the beginning of the year where people are just like, I am so done. And if you're someone who is beginning to ponder upon separation, or you're dreading the holidays, are you someone who feels exceptionally challenged and you feel that it's an area of contention and anxiety provoking? That's absolutely okay, because you will have to deal with certain folks, and it's not great for your greatness. And sometimes empaths, we're not so wonderful at best protecting ourselves. We actually leave ourselves particularly vulnerable, and we have to ask if we are doing it. Well, often we are. We are doing it to ourselves. So just like this cushion I often show to clients, we have to focus on what you can control. What can you control in situations? Now, look, not all of us can just cut and run. It ain't that easy. It's not an option. But be careful of your people-pleasingness, your capacity to just say yes and not take time out. We often give knee-jerk reactions. We say yes without even thinking about, does this work for me? Does this actually work for me? Because of our people-pleasingness. Sometimes we need to create what we call the stimulus gap. So the question comes in, and because we're such people pleasers, we're just like, yeah, no problem. And then after, we're like, why did I say that? You've just burdened yourself. You've burdened yourself. So the opposite to that is to begin to say, let me get back to you. Let me think about it. I need to get back to you. Now, if you're dealing with a very unnecessarily difficult person who's used to you being a yes, sir, no, no, sir, yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir, they are not going to appreciate your delay tactic, because naturally they just assume you will do what you've always done. But we want to go beyond learning about boundaries, people, and we want to start to slowly apply them. We want to slowly start to apply them. And one of the ways we can do that is by saying, let me get back to you. Now, for us empaths, that's not going to be, hopefully that won't be too overwhelming, because it's not a hard no. Because some of us don't have no in our vocabulary. We feel guilty. And because we can't deal with the guilt, we have to rid ourselves of guilt. And that's where the yes comes in. But by saying, for example, I'll get back to you on that, you are giving yourself grace, and you are giving yourself an opportunity to think about this audacious question for empaths. Does that work for me? Remember, you people pleasers, your energy and focus is often on other people's needs. You hyper attune to them. And this is why it is very difficult for us, because often, like I say many a time before, we don't even acknowledge our needs. So what often happens is we're threadbare, tired, overwhelmed, because what? You think you're going to complain to me that people keep taking advantage of you and well, actually, no. Maybe one of the issues is that you always say yes, and you're always over accommodating for others at your expense. We need to start to work out how we are being our own worst enemy before we bang on about what people have done to you, how they've treated you. You need to start to notice how your people-pleasingness is actually working against you. And if you've got any questions about the holidays, the anxiety that might be building up in you, feel free to ask. I don't even see one question here for me to vibe off of. What questions do you have about how best to protect yourself? Because your people-pleasingness will result in you being overwhelmed. Not great for your greatness. Another factor we need to consider is not only the people-pleasingness, but also in the lead up to this time of year, who unsettles you? Who are the people that unsettles you? Because it's just not narcissistic individuals. I know we get caught up in all of their behaviors, but often remember, empaths, we're not quite fully aware of the other people that are also pulling on us. Verona said, I found it's not always guilt in my case. It's fear of having no one in the end. I hear you, Verona. And I think the challenge when we live by fear is, I said this to my daughter recently, who was experiencing fear and asked me for some advice. You see, we have to work out whether we want a life lived by fear. Fear keeps you in your stagnation zone. It keeps you in your comfort zone. And I believe the comfort zone is actually a place of stagnation. And because we're living organisms, stagnation is not great for our greatness. If you've ever walked past stagnant water, you will know it is far from pleasant. We would not be drinking it. And I think it's the same for human beings, that when we stagnate, something in us becomes putrid. It's why we end up sad and depressed, and then we get caught up on the why am I sad, why am I depressed, or we try to deal with the surface level issues. But actually underneath that, there's solid good reasons. The challenge about fearing being on your own is often, my queen, you may well be alone in company. And that can actually be far more difficult when you're in and around people, but you feel isolated. Speaking to a client about this last night, and we were talking about the challenge of wanting connection. Actually, we want connection. Connection is so crucial. Having connection, someone to connect with, someone to actually have sometimes you just want a decent conversation. But you know, it's really difficult when people just are not on your same wave. So while you might have quantity, you may actually not have quality. And that, like I said before, means that your life becomes small. And actually for you, my sister, if you're living in your stagnation zone, not the comfort zone, we need to reword that, is the stagnation zone. And it's the breeding ground for anxiety, depression, and stress. Not great for the life that you want to manifest. Not great for living your best life, because that's what we all want, right? It's fundamental / crucial that we learn to, I believe, this is how I interpret it, because I think how I think, right? The opposite to fear is faith, in my view. Can I step out on faith? Can I endeavor to try something different, and we try something small? Yesterday, I purchased a custom pair of Nike Huaraches for myself for Christmas. Thank you, Megs, for the hookup. Megs, my girl, she taught me how to get my Nike Huaraches custom made. So I've gone for the red and purple. We got to keep it on brand, right? And it arrives before Christmas. And for me, that's a gift I give to myself. Some of us will be disappointed. Some of us won't even ask. Grand Rising, Megan, Wagwan, right? We don't ask for what we want. So what do we get? We get crumbs. We get nothing. We get something that we didn't even want. Sometimes it's really important to gift yourself something. What do you need to gift to yourself? We have to learn to be our own best friends. My dear friend, I hope that with regards to getting out of your comfort zone makes sense to you. If you've got any other questions, I have a client in 11 minutes, so I'll have to be jumping off. But I'm jumping on the live. Verona, let me know if that makes sense. If you've got any other questions, let me know. Is the live freezing constantly for anyone else? Oh, is it? Oh, I thought you was talking about being cold. Here we go. I'm currently helping my brother by letting him stay because he has split from his girlfriend. It's draining. My dear friend, Sophine, what I would say to you is you've put no boundary around that. And you need to put a boundary around that. So say, bro, you're good for 2 weeks, 4 weeks max. And then after 4 weeks, one of the things that us empaths do is we don't boundary things. And as long as you give, people will take. So it's important for us to say, you know what, I know you've split, but 4 weeks, sort yourself out. Give him 4 weeks. You need to put a time period about that. Because if you don't, people will continue to milk from you, drain from you. Remember, empaths, we have lots of people who are suckling from our udders. I use this in my group, Navigate Narcissism Now. I use the metaphor of a piglet with lots of udders underneath them. And what happens is, empaths often get caught up with the narcissists who's draining them the most. But you've got other little people who are suckling from you. And one of the challenges is, when we are being nice, because we're so instantaneous, you're in help, yeah, cool, come. But what you haven't done, my friend, and I hope this makes sense to you, if you've got any other questions, let me know, is you haven't put a boundary around that. And so he's happy to coach. Additionally, have you asked for any financial aid? Because nothing worse than you notice your fridge is going down, your heating bills are going up, but they're living their best life, having Uber takeaways, right? But you're actually financially being penalized. And this is why we really must pay attention to our instantaneous yes. I tell him he needs to get somewhere and he says things, then I feel bad. And it's okay that you feel bad. It's okay that you feel bad, but what you might need to do is to put a boundary around that. Bro, I'm going to give you until... Now, what you might need help with, and maybe you need to inbox me about that, is learning to sit with feeling bad. It's okay. If you let your bad feeling control you, you can't let it control you, because what's going to happen is resentment and bitterness is going to build up. And all of a sudden, it will be that he didn't put the toilet seat down and you go bang. Something small will happen and then you'll have an outburst. And that can sometimes hamper relationships, but it is what it is. But fundamentally, you haven't laid down the rules. And we've got to lay down the rules. Any further questions, let your girl Keeley know you are not alone. Thank you for the hearts and thank you for the love. Thank you for the roses. I struggle with this too. I feel bad if I spend money on me. Yes, because somewhere in your timeline you have worked out, sorry, not sorry, that you're not worthy. There was a time in my business when I used to speak about know your worth. See, the challenge is for many of us, we don't know our worth. But let me tell you, the narcissists that find you, they know your worth. They target you for your worth and you're walking around blind. And as you grow, my hope for you is that you learn to know your worth. That's why when, they come to you with their requests and their demands, people are targeting you for empathy because you're a soft touch. So the fact that you feel discomfort when you do for you, that's good. That's growth. As I said to my daughter recently, who had a different hairstyle and wanted my encouragement as she was a little bit uncomfortable going into the office, I said, know that when you feel discomfort, it's actually a sign of you going into a new phase. It's actually a sign of growth. But we assume that that discomfort means we shouldn't. No, it means you're coming out of your comfort zone. And coming out of your comfort zone is essential for your greatness. I ain't lying. So rather than interpret that, and what will happen, I remember there was this hotel in Watford called The Grove, and I used to feel like I wasn't good enough to go in there. And as I was training as a psychologist, I decided that I would go there. So it's that whole scenario of feel the fear and do it anyway. So I felt discomfort and I went. And what happens is over time, that becomes your norm. It's like breaking into a new pair of shoes. It becomes your norm. So in the end, I'll go in there. I don't feel no way. It's growth. It's not a big deal. So stick with trust the process, my queen. Reward yourself. Keep doing it, sister. That's a sign of coming out of your comfort zones. And it's essential for our greatness and our wellness and our inner genius and for the life that we want for ourselves, that we learn to do that. He said he's found somewhere but needs a deposit. I think he's just playing me. He's playing you like the piano. Pia, pia, piano, piano, piano. That's a big hardback grown man. You need to let him know you are not the bank. And when he does that to you, you need to ask the 5 WH questions. What, when, how, who, and why? How do you plan to get the money? What do you think you need to do? Do not come up with solution, ask probing questions. Sometimes we need to be real. That's not my responsibility. My sister queen, this is an opportunity, a rare opportunity for you to start advocating for yourself. Your brother knows you're a tough, soft touch, and my assumption is he's exploiting that. And whilst you don't like this situation, it becomes a rare opportunity for you to practice self-advocation. He's been here a month and gave me £30. Of course he would have given you £30 because you never set down the T's and C's. When you go to take out a phone, what's the first thing that you sign up for? WhatsApp. You have to sign terms and conditions. You never laid down no terms and conditions. This is why before we say yes, we need to say, hold on, let me think about that. I'll get back to you. But we don't. We just say yes. And then we put no T's and C's around it. So you're lucky you got £30. But the reality is you and I know it's costing you more than £30. Because some of these people are working from home and you're pounding the pavement to make your money. So they're burning off your heating. They're eating your food and using your resources. Not great for your greatness. Builds resentment and frustration. He has his kids at mine all weekend and uses everything, but we'll buy them food. Exactly. My sister, if you struggle with this, inbox me. But maybe what you need to do in the first instance is maybe write it out in text. I'm also a massive fan of Otter, which is a way to dictate. So dictate what you want to say in Otter. As you dictate that, it will put it into text. You can then copy and paste that text, copy it and amend it. And when you send it, you send some, listen, this is a whole bloody, I can do a whole webinar on that topic alone, how to compose it. Yeah, you need to communicate with him, but firstly, you need to let it down. Go on Otter, download Otter, Otter maybe, dictate what you want to say, amend, and then send. But we want to send information that's factual, not emotional. Listen, I've got strategies for these people all day, and I swear, sometimes I should put it in a book. You know how much times I dictate to people, I have to do voice note and say it like this. He earns around £700 a week. He says he's got to fix my car this week and give you're being exploited, rude girl. I've already given you some tips on that. I've got 2 minutes. Client's going to be here. I have today, and he's coming out with, well, I have to find somewhere to stay. Yeah, not your responsibility. It's probably cheaper for you to go and get your car done somewhere else, because he's probably going to try and, manipulate that to his advantage. Not great for your greatness. I'm mindful of time. I've come really far to where I was. I will get there. Absolutely. And remember, sister, it's always a journey. I have to say to people, you will never arrive. Whether people work with me for 6 months or a year, the reality is, don't assume that by that you'll grow. But you need to understand this is a lifelong journey. People will always try and exploit you. So it's continual growth. And sometimes we backslide. It's not one and done. We slip back and we just pay attention.